Hi, y'all. I'm Obscure Girl. I like movies. I like weird movies. I like weird, trippy, obscure movies that I feel like no one has seen or is talking about. Whether that be because they're so old, or the marketing was bad, or because you're like, I think that was a fever dream I had when I was 5. I'm here to tell you it wasn't. Let's talk about it. And today I want to talk about a movie that was part of the inspiration behind this channel. And for that, we're going to need a little bit of backstory. Please bear with me. It's Monday, January 11th, 8 a.m., 2016. I am carpooling with my boss to get to my job, and all of a sudden my phone starts blowing up. And I look down, and one message is from my best friend from first grade through high school that I hadn't talked to in a minute. And it just said, "Remember to breathe." And I'm like, what's going on? Very quickly found out that my favorite singer and the man I've been in love with since I was 4 years old, David Bowie, had passed away at the age of 69. That was a rough one. That was definitely a rough one at the beginning of what was going to end up being a very rough year. Not only that year did I end up losing my favorite singer, I ended up losing my mom and my faith in half of humanity. But we'll get to that later. No, we won't. So when I found out that Bowie had passed, and I'm just looking up every bit of media I can possibly find about him, I find someone had made a list of the top whatever best movies that David Bowie was in. And I'm like, oh right, he was in more than just Labyrinth, right? So I look up this video and quickly looked up just about every movie on that list, including today's movie from 1986. We're going to talk about Absolute Beginners. Now, if you have heard of this movie, I will be shocked. If you have actually seen this movie, I might fall over in my chair. It is not a well-known movie, at least definitely not today. I had to hunt this bad boy down. And then, of course, after years of me trying to hunt it down, I end up finding it at Dollar Tree in mass for $1.25 each. Needless to say, all my friends got the same Christmas present that year. But this movie is trippy. It is weird. It is hard to follow. And sometimes the language is kind of like, what are they even saying? Having said that, of course I love it. This is what I call one of my 4 a.m. movies. This is actually my main 4 a.m. movie, meaning I can't sleep, I'm having insomnia, I woke up too early, whatever. This is what I'm going to put on and just vibe with the universe as the world is quiet and I can just watch something mindless and be mindless. So the movie itself, spoiler-free premise. This movie takes place in the 1950s in post-World War II London. And this is a time in history when the world was starting to kind of come back from the devastation that World War II had on London, especially when some of the buildings are still war-torn, bombed, and people are actually living in those buildings because that's the affordable place to live. And out of all of this, teenagers, especially older teenagers, young 20s, 17, 18, 19, are becoming the new economic class, and they're calling it the teenage phenomenon when they're realizing that, oh, these are the people that are buying records, that are buying clothes, that are going out into the economy and spending money. The world is theirs right now, so let's mass market to them. And we have Colin, who is a photographer and lives in a very, very, half blown up building, and believes that making money is kind of a way of selling out. And he is in love with Suzette, who is a wannabe fashion designer who's working for a very, very posh gentleman, and she wants more of the finer things in life and is no longer okay with Colin being pretty anti-money. And so that is the main spoiler-free premise. Eventually, there's going to be more of Colin trying to get Suzette back after she leaves him and trying to sell out himself. But that's pretty much the outside premise. Now, David Bowie is not the main character in this movie. He's not even, he's more of a secondary, if not tertiary character. But when he shows up, you feel it. The whole movie feels it. because that was Bowie. So without any further ado, why don't we just start getting into it? I also would like to apologize in advance because this is one that is going to be very hard for me to find clips for, so those will probably be very limited and probably not the best quality, and I just apologize. If you can find this movie, please find this movie and enjoy it, especially if it's 4 a.m. or if you're just like, God, I miss David Bowie and his presence in this universe. People were sending me all these memes all 2016. Like, I'm not saying David Bowie was holding the fabric of the universe together, but just so you know, from this point forward, we are going into spoilers. If you want to watch this movie first, please go ahead. Though I'm going to tell you right now, honestly, me giving you the spoilers might actually make it easier for you to understand the movie the first time going through. They use a lot of old 1950s British slang, and so sometimes it's a little like, what's going on? Also, it is a very expressionist, trippy movie. So, going into it. This is starring Colin, played by Eddie O'Connell. And he lives by himself. He's 19 years old. He lives in this apartment that's like half blown up. And he lives in a area of London called Napoli, where everyone is equal. There's no class, there's no race, there's no nothing going on. It's just all these people happy to have survived the war together. Also, just a really quick shout out, Robbie Coltrane, Hagrid, is in this movie. He barely has any lines, and he has a very thick Italian accent, and he plays a deli owner named Mario. That's pretty much all there is with him. It's just cool looking back and being like, oh my God, you're kidding. Now, Colin has all of these different kinds of friends. There is the fabulous Hoplite, who is very openly gay and fabulous and very well connected, meaning he knows the society types as well as just about everyone on the street.
Hoplite, our own low-rent Oscar Wilde, and a very well-connected boy.
There's Big Jill, who is a lesbian, but a boy's best friend, as they say in the movie. And she is played by Eve Ferret, who was in Haunted Honeymoon, which is another one we've talked about. By the way, this is absolute beginners. This is usually right back here with the rest of my I'm not feeling good or 4 a.m. movies. But there's that. So Eve also lives in the same building as Colin.
Big Jill.
You've got Wiz, or the Wizard, who is this baby-faced pickpocket and criminal mastermind who you slowly kind of realize more and more is just an asshole. He's not a good person, but he's part of the gang, so they put up with him.
Wiz, a real child of the pavements. Baby face like a mask over his 2,000-year-old soul. There's
Cool, who is black, which is a point in the movie. Like, that's not just me pointing that out for bits and giggles. It's important. He's a musician and, as they say, named Cool for reasons too obvious to mention.
Cat named Cool. So cool for reasons too obvious to mention.
He's a cool guy. And then you also have Dean Swift, who's just this super suave, cool guy. He kind of looks like a baddie. He doesn't have a lot of lines in the movie. He's just kind of there and is one of the gang, but that's about it.
Dean Swift, a sharp modern jazz creation.
So that is his friends that you're going to see throughout the movie. They go to this club called Shea Nobody, and they, dance the night away, things like that. Colin is obsessed with his girlfriend, Suzette. And this is a girl who knows what she wants and is not going to settle for less. She's very much someone who doesn't put up with, oh, you're late to the date? I don't think so. I'm going to go dance with this guy over here. She is first of all, she's gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. Dreams of being a big designer and is working for this guy named Henley, who is also very clear to us gay. Absolutely. And is closeted in the movie, but it's very obvious that he is closeted in the movie. And is using Suzette's designs and calling them his own, but she's also using him to try and make connections and get to Paris and get to make a name of herself eventually. So Suzette, who wants Colin to be making more money as well and be more ambitious, she sets him up with a photo shoot at this talent agency and says she has a show tomorrow that he better not be late for. Kind of an or else situation. So then Colin the next day for her goes and does this whole, shot and everything, which he says, he'll sell dirty pictures for money, but take real pictures for love. And so he's expecting not the most up and up of photo shoots. Gets there and it's this talent guy who is looking for the next young, big, like Elvis style singer, but that has to be like younger and younger. So he's got this whole room and he picks one out and he's like, this is Baby Boom. And he's the next big thing that, like sings like Elvis, but has a baby face and baby voice. So he does the job, but because of that, he ends up, of course, being late to the show. And then Henley, played by James Fox, a very young James Fox, is at the door saying, yeah, I don't think she wants you here, and turns him away at the door. Meanwhile, in the show, Suzette is accidentally getting her big break because there is the show going on and Dido Lament, who is like the big socialite, she's very big on the news scene, she's very big on connecting people to other people, and she's telling Henley, like, your style is too stuffy, like hemlines need to go up, they cannot come down. And Henley's like, oh my god, there's nothing more disgusting than the back of a woman's knees. So Suzette is setting up all the models for the show and accidentally gets dragged out onto the stage by one of them. And everyone's like, oh, we like her style. Henley, where have you been hiding this? And she just takes over the show in this awesome dance number and is like in real time turning her dress into a creation in front of everyone. And Henley, of course, takes the credit, but then basically makes kind of a deal with Suzette, like, oh yeah, like, have you met Christian? Have you met, all these people? And you want to come to Paris, right? And she's like, I'd love to. So now she's kind of made a deal with the devil, but she's on her way to getting what she thinks she wants. So later that night, she shows up and meets up with Colin and basically dumps him flat. He goes in there thinking like, I'm your boy Suze forever and ever. And she just sings a song called Having It All, which, by the way, this is a musical. Did I not lead with that? It's a David Bowie movie. This is a musical. The song Absolute Beginners was written for this movie, which is one of my favorite Bowie songs. So probably because of this movie, I don't know. But she sings a very jazzy song. Everything turns into like black light and neon. And she sings this song called Having It All and goes, you'll never stop me from having it all. So she basically says goodbye to him and goes on to try and make a name for herself using Henley. So a very heartbroken Colin ends up going home to his parents' house where his dark room is in an old bomb shelter and is very quickly reminded why he left home. His dad is this sweet guy who's still very much in love with his wife when they were happy back before the war, but now they run like a lodger house where his wife is fooling around with like half the tenants. And the dad ends up singing this really fun, trippy song called Quiet Life. Give your daddy a quiet life. Where he's just like, yep, nope, I'm turning a blind eye to this. I'm staying blissfully ignorant. I just want the quiet life. I'm just going to be here and take care of this house and live life as I can. Meanwhile, you have this like open face dollhouse floor plan where you see what's going in all the different rooms, where Colin's half brother is like being a total creep and everything, like spying on people. You've got the mom like fooling around with two of the different lodgers, which are constantly in like weird outfits and stuff. It's a whole thing, but it's really, really cool to see. It's like really, it's cool cinematography. And so Colin's all just like, yeah, no, this isn't going to be me. I need to get out of here. Mom, you're so toxic. So we get back to Napoli and meet Ed the Ted, which is this guy who is very, very older looking, but he's dressed like kind of an Elvis greaser teenager type. And he is just this really kind of trashy guy. He lives pretty much like in the junkyard of the street and has this whole gang and everything. And he sings this very like rockabilly kind of song. And it's just weird. Colin makes a comment about how like, you know, you went from a kid to a 40-year-old pretty much, but you never spent the time to be a teenager in between. So again, back to the whole like this is the teenage revolution, and actually being able to be what they call an absolute beginner is what life is all about. And so then we meet Wizard again, and he has now upgraded to a bootlegging operation of like Baby Boom fake albums, as well as kind of pimping on the side. And he's just not a nice guy. He has this one girl working for him that he treats horribly. And it's just like, oh my God, why are you still talking to this guy? So it's been a couple weeks since they broke up, and Colin calls Suzette, whose room is filled with roses and diamond jewelry. And she tells Colin like she's going to be at Dido Lament's party later. And he's like, that vulture? Like, what are you doing? And she's just like, whatever, Colin. And then she hangs up the phone, and you see a engagement ring on her finger. Oh boy. So Colin then crashes Dido's party, but luckily Hoplite is right there to say that he brought him in. And everyone starts introducing themselves to Colin. And Dido is like the first one to be like all over him and is just basically throwing herself at him. And this party turns into Colin selling out, basically. He's drinking kind of for the first time and is getting drunk. And this whole party turns into like this networking situation where like everyone knows each other's phone number, and they're like, oh, call this guy for this, call this guy for this, make sure you call about this job. And she's like, oh, well, you know, take pictures of my party, stuff like that. And it just feels very, very skeezy and very slimy. And you feel like this is Colin like, yeah, if this is what I gotta do, if this is where life is inevitably gonna end up taking me, then yeah, I'll sell out. And this is when we get our first glimpse of Bowie. His character's name is Vendis Partners. I'm just probably going to call him Bowie because you forget it very quickly and you just see Bowie. But he's very mysteriously weaving himself in and out of the party and like eyeing Colin and like seeing the potential in him, and eventually introduces himself to him, which is hilarious because in this movie full of Brits, David Bowie is playing an American and has an American accent, which cracks me up because, you know, he had the most beautiful British accent of all time. Obviously, we all know this. But the local news anchor guy is all like, hey, like you are part of the teenage phenomenon that I want to learn about and have a docuseries about. And I want you to help me and be the face of the teenage phenomenon. And so Colin is just kind of like, okay, yeah, if this is what y'all need me to do, I guess it's not that bad. And so agrees to be the new face of this teenage, you know, docuseries. Meanwhile, Suzette shows up and immediately says to Colin, like, oh, by the way, Henley says we can still date. Like, the French have a word for it, but like we can still date. It's fine. And Colin at this point is trashed for probably the first time in his life. And is all like, I don't care what he says and blah, blah, blah. I don't care what the French call it. And Henley shows up and is immediately peacocking, which, again, it's like everyone knows. I don't know why he's trying to hide it. A lot of other people are openly gay in this movie, which is probably one of my favorite things about it, is that it's a 1980s movie based on the 1950s, but they just have all these out people just living their lives. It's freaking beautiful. And so, but Henley, I guess, is trying to use Suzette as his beard and kind of a mutual meal ticket situation. So he is shoving her ring in Colin's face. And at this point, Colin just drops. Meanwhile, this whole time they were actually singing a jazz song called Selling Out. So it was a very fun scene. The floor has like this spinny thing, like a turntable floor. So you just see Colin like spinning on the floor, kind of showing that he's like, you know, drunk and spinny. But yeah, so that didn't go so well for our boy Colin. Meanwhile, this is where the giant subplot of the movie is starting to show its head, because there are racist Nazi people that are starting to stir up trouble in Napoli. They're starting to go around and just make their presence known and starting to make the locals uncomfortable. And Colin ends up running into the Wizard, who now has a full pimping operation and is also a racist Nazi bastard. So there is that. We don't like Wizard anymore. This is the point where even Colin's like, what is wrong with you? And just bolts. Meanwhile, after he takes off, Vendis, Bowie, finds him on the street, picks him up, and takes him to offer him a job where they are selling dreams.
We don't sell things. We sell dreams. It'll show you your dreams.
And this is a really cool scene. Bowie is trying to convince Colin to join his cause and be kind of like a salesman and just kind of help him, sell dreams. And he sings a song, That's Motivation. There's a really cool like tap dancing on a giant typewriter scene. And throughout the course of the song, you just see him really, really getting his hooks into Colin and really like selling the dream to him. There's so much cinematography in this that is absolutely crazy and trippy. It really looks like a music video. There's a scene where Bowie is riding on like this airplane around a globe, and it's like they end up like having another tap dance in the clouds. It's so cool. But by the end of the song, Bowie has convinced Colin to join his cause and sell dreams to the people, while he is also doing his teenage phenomenon, taking photos of his friends and being the face of this movement. Also, unfortunately, while all this is going on, Suzette actually marries Henley. Like, the wedding is done. And Colin has sold his soul to David Bowie, which, give me a pen. Meanwhile, Colin goes to be on this TV show for the guy that originally asked him about the docuseries, and he's on there with Dido and Harry Charms, the talent agency guy, and he's taking Colin's photos of his friends and is immediately mocking them, quickly finding out that the whole idea of the Teenage Phenomenon docuseries wasn't about actually appreciating teenagers. It was about tearing them apart and making fun of them, and basically for the old people that have money to be like, oh, this generation. And he quickly realizes that's what's going on. Meanwhile, on camera, underneath the desk, both Dido and Harry are both trying to reach in and start groping Colin on TV, and Colin loses it. This is when he's officially like, no, I am so done with all of you. And calls them out saying like, oh, you don't give any, like, you don't understand the teenagers. You don't care about the teenagers, but guess what? We're here to stay. You're all a bunch of sellouts and vultures and parasites, and shame on you. And he does this all on live TV. So ends up at Shea Nobody later, the hero of the day. You even saw Suzette in her wedding dress sobbing watching Colin do all this on TV, and is immediately regretting her choices. So at Shea Nobody, Big Jill is there to show Colin this gorgeous new singer, Sadie, I believe was her name in real life. And she sings the song Killer Blow, and it's so fabulous. Meanwhile, during the song, the Wizard ends up very blatantly like showing Colin the newspaper article showing that Suzette got married, and that ends up being his killer blow, and he leaves in a total stupor and ends up crashing his Vespa into the junkyard. Meanwhile, in there, he ends up finding Cool's little sister's toy bunny and is like, what is this kind of doing here? Takes it home. He's super depressed, takes the bunny to sleep, and just passes out. He doesn't get to sleep for too long, though, because he wakes up to Ed the Ted breaking into his apartment and trying to steal all of his records. The entire neighborhood is taken over by these Nazis, and they are breaking into Black people's homes and burning them and throwing all their stuff out windows and scaring families off and being absolute monsters. So Ed the Ted is now, and his gang have joined in with the Nazis and says, Flicker sent me. We want Cool out of here. So Cool lives in the same building as Colin. And that's, at this point, Colin's like, oh no, I'm awake. And Ed tries to rob him and like beat him. And Colin ends up like beating him, kicking him out of there. And as soon as he's out, Cool shows up and is like, I thought I heard trouble. He sees the bunny and is like, this is my kid sisters. They've been in my family's house. And so they go out on the street to try and figure out what's going on. Cool is also at this point explaining to Colin that, like, yeah, you haven't really been around town. You haven't seen, these people are organized and they have a mission, and it is to get all of us out of here, and they will do it by any means necessary. And meanwhile, half the street is on fire. There are things like flying out of windows. People are angry, people are scared, and things are going wrong. So Colin ends up looking at all of his photos that he's been taking this whole time of his friends, and is seeing all of what's been going on in the background that he's been missing because he's been so focused on his new job and trying to be, saving the movement. So then Cool ends up taking Colin to this rally that is predominantly Black people, saying that, the Nazis want us out of here, we want them out of here. And the only way we're going to be able to do this is by fighting back. To which a powder keg is very much being lit here. It is not going to be good. It's very, very obvious that things are about to get really, really messed up. Not that they aren't already, but it's going to get really bad. So as the Nazis are kicking Cool's parents and sister out of their home and burning it in front of them, Cool's little sister breaks into this car and finds all these development plans and steals them and brings them to Cool and Colin, who then realize that they're trying to build this new, living community in our neighborhood, and some pieces of the puzzle are starting to get together. First of all, David Bowie and Henley are both main investors on this development plan. And Colin had even seen what it was going to look like. There was a model in Bowie's office just showing him all these new condos and apartments and stuff. So it's very obvious now that, oh yeah, these organized Nazis are here trying to clear out the neighborhood so they can build this guilt-free without having to evict a bunch of people. Not that they really have the legal claim to do that, because this is a very loosely run neighborhood. So Colin's main concern right now is Henley was a partner. Could Suzette know about this? So he ends up just going to Suzette at Henley's place, and immediately she's sobbing. She is so unhappy with all of her choices, and he just wants to know, did she know about it? And she's like, oh, that's just one of Henley's companies, not knowing really anything that was actually going on with it. I don't even think she really knew that that was the neighborhood that Colin lived in before anything else, but she definitely didn't know the plans. But she is still sobbing because, oh my God, Colin is here, and he was someone who actually loved me and made me happy, and I'm trapped here being a trophy wife and a beard. But Henley shows up and kicks Colin out, and all Suzette can do is cry. So at this point, I'm just kind of annoyed with Suzette because, do something. You made these choices. You can fix them. It's okay. You can actually do something, grow a spine, stop just whimpering, and make something happen. Whew, sorry, I have issues. Meanwhile, right as Colin is leaving, the landlord of Napoli, the main guy that owns a lot of the buildings, calls up Henley and is like, this is all getting out of hand. We're losing control over the situation, blah, blah, blah. And Henley's like, don't ever call me here. What are you talking about? But he still takes Suzette and he's heading over to the neighborhood, very quickly confirming that, yes, they had hired the Nazis to go in there and create all of this fear and panic so that people would leave, so that they can come in without any problems, clear out the neighborhood, and build their new skyrises and everything. So then Colin gives Dido a call and is like, hey, I've got all these pictures of everything that's going on. I want to blow the lid off of these people. One of them too that's involved, and that we just need to blow up what's happening because this cannot stand. Meanwhile, Dido's just like, oh, you have been a bad boy, haven't you? And Bowie is there in bed with her. So literally, not just figuratively. So nothing's really going to happen there. She's not going to do anything to help him. Meanwhile, things back in Napoli have come to a head because there are Nazis actively beating up people in the streets, setting things on fire, using the N-word left and right. Yeah, that wasn't great. And just making it absolutely a hellscape there. And they're not just going after Black people. They're going after the friends of Black people. They're going after the gay people. They want everyone out. And it doesn't matter what color, what anything is. They're just going after everyone there because, if they're not Black, then they must be friends of Black people, and that's just as bad. I hate Nazis. Also, it shouldn't be that hard to say on camera, I hate Nazis. I had to get that out. Anyway. This movie has a lot more relevance today than than you would have thought. Just saying. Like, it's a totally obscure movie from the 80s about the 50s. But you know, it's just kind of, you're seeing some, you know what I'm saying. So the landlord tries to confront Flicker, who is the head of the Nazi gang, and is just like, yeah, no, you did what you were meant to do. Like, let's get this under control. And Flicker is just like, it's okay. We got it from here. And is basically like, now the Nazis are just out there to do Nazi stuff. It's not even that they were hired anymore. Now it's they're having too much fun and being way too evil. So even the landlord is out. So Henley and Suze are going to find the landlord. They're driving through Napoli. They're immediately attacked by a whole group of black people that just don't want any white people anywhere near them anymore. That whole thing is starting to come to a head because they're trying to defend their homes and their families, but they're not being too picky about who they're going after. And luckily, Cool is there to pull Suzette out of the car before they get in for Henley. So Cool ends up getting Suzette, taking her someplace safe. And Colin is then confronted by a group of black people that are just going after, like I said, anyone that's white, trying, you know, there's a lot of fear, there's a lot of panic, and there's a lot of, Colin's not in a great place right now because the Nazis are trying to kill him for being a friend to black people, and the black people are just trying to defend their homes from anyone that might potentially be a threat, and they're not about to take Colin's word for it. But of all people, the wizard ends up actually saving Colin from all of this and takes him someplace where Colin finds out where all the Nazis have been getting organized and takes them to a Keep Britain White rally where this guy who has a full-on Hitler stash is trying to run for office, basically, and is the one who is rallying up all these people. And that's when Colin finds out, like, Wizard is a full-out Nazi, punches him out, but then everyone realizes he just punched out one of their own, and then he ends up getting chased out of the Nazi rally. And they chase him basically into the middle of a race war. This scene is very West Side Story. The fights are choreographed, like with dancing. It is, I think in the trailer they actually call it the West End story. It is very, very much like that. You have dancing in the streets as people are, you know, having knife fights, and there's fire absolutely everywhere, and things are really, really getting tense and scary. So then Flicker ends up finding Colin and standing off against him, but Cool shows up and ends up being Flicker versus Cool, and then Colin is trying to help him, but then the wizard shows up and knocks out Colin. So there's like a really intense scene happening here because it is Cool versus Flicker. Lightning is striking, there's fire, there's rain, there's thunder, and Cool ends up having Flicker pinned, and Flicker's like, they hired me, like, I was hired to do this, I was hired to push you guys out, even though he clearly loved it and was the one leading them to keep going even after they were trying to be stopped. But you just see this war inside Cool, who wants to kill this guy for everything he's done to his family, to him, to his neighborhood, his home, but ends up stopping himself and saying, you're not even worth it, and sets him free. So once that clincher of a scene ends up fading, Suze and Colin end up running into the middle of the street where it has now become a dance party. There's rain, there's fireworks, there's everyone who was just fighting is now dancing because Flicker has been dealt with, and everything's just okay now. And Absolute Beginners starts playing as Colin takes Suzette home. Is it a great movie? No. It's kind of all over the place and really, really weird and trippy. And like I said, hard to follow sometimes, unless you've watched it like 50 times like I have. But it is a fantastic movie to check out when you can't sleep at 4 a.m., when you're just missing David Bowie, or when you're kind of curious about how this movie from this time and place ends up relating to what's going on in today's time and place. So yeah, I love that movie, obviously. I think it's very cool. I like the trippy images, and being able to talk about this movie is one of the reasons why I started this channel. So I'm glad I'm finally knocking this one out. If you liked this video, pretty please like it. and maybe even share it around. And if you haven't already, pretty please subscribe to my channel. It would help me so much. Please check me out on Patreon so you can help me upgrade the quality of these videos. And I hope that you end up checking out this video. Let me know if you actually have seen it. More likely, let me know if you end up seeing it. And I hope you're having a wonderful day. I've been Obscure Girl. Check out this movie. And the rest is confetti.